just needs to stop blowing. I would be happy about that. Well, Michael, how are you today?
I am good. How are you, ma'am?
I am great. This is our, I don't know, our fourth podcast,
I think
something like
so.
that. Can you believe we're already into the middle of April?
No, that's kind of crazy. My parents always told me when you get a little older, time will start flying more, and I never believed them when I was a kid. But my gosh, it's getting pretty quick.
First quarter's over with, starting
Yep.
the second quarter of the year. Half of April is over with. How is business?
Business is good. It's slowed down just a little bit, but that's kind of my fault for,
Mm.
um, you know, having other temporary priorities. But business is good. Josh just came back full time as of
Oh,
today. Yeah,
congratulations.
we're really excited about that. He's going to be our data manager and all of that. So data and IT. So we're really
So
excited
he
about
left the
that.
banking world.
Correct.
Left the banking world.
And came
So
back to us. So yeah, we're super excited about that, and making moves. We're about to do some big things.
good, 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 good. We've been busy. We've had a lot. I've been busy. So when I say we, because I was a high school girls basketball coach, and we didn't put the I, in the team. It's a
Right.
we. And so you would think though, after 24 years, I could start talking about I, but it's
I
just
need to be more like that. Honestly, I say I too much.
well, I don't say I enough. People are like, well, who is we, Pam? And I'm like, me, myself, and I. And it's been that way, for a long time, except when I used to go and work, for the big brokers and
Hmm.
everything. So uh, I had one of my coaches talking about you need to talk a little bit more about yourself, and it is so hard for me to do,
Yeah.
and everything because that's not the way I was taught, back in the
Right.
day.
The only thing I know to do is tell a couple of stories that have happened to me, and then say what I do, and then
Yeah.
I'm after that. I hope everyone's good because I'm done. I don't have anything else.
Well, today's topic, we're talking about if you come across a house and you don't know what to do with it, what do you do?
Right.
You know,
If you're
how's it?
left the house, if you've received one in probate, or
You've inherited one,
right.
you don't know what to do with it, or you have a house that's in disrepair,
Yeah, the roof is falling in, and you can't. There's no way to get financing on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question. There's also this discrepancy about, and here's the thing. I'm a licensed Texas real estate broker, and you're
I am a wholesaler and investor.
a wholesaler and investor. And there's a whole lot of talk going on right now about, investors versus real estate agents. And
Hmm.
I think this is funny because you and I have been here together, me as a real estate broker and you as an investor, and we work together.
Yes,
We don't work against one
we've
another.
actually done deals together
We have actually done deals together and everything, and we have helped each other out. And
tremendously. Well, you've helped me out tremendously. I don't know how
eh,
much I've
you've helped me.
helped.
I think this is funny when people say that. I'm like, well, Pam, I don't know what I've done for you, and maybe I don't express it enough and everything because, like Nelda, I know I've talked about her the last two or three times we talked, but she's almost finished with her first project
That's awesome.
and everything. In fact, she's done a better job of negotiating with the contractors, I think, than I would have. I was like, "You go, girl."
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
So,
I know you're pretty good.
was sitting there listening to her talk and everything. So, like I said, you know, maybe I don't come back enough to say, "Hey, but this is what you have done," for me. And being a real estate agent and coming over into the investment side, it was very hard to do something different because when you're an agent, and especially I got my license before 2009. So the mindset back then is completely different than the mindset today. It blows me away with these, I call them millennials, the new agents, the new
Hmm.
investors. When I go to real estate, investment meetings, I am awed about the age that was there.
Hmm.
Before 2009, I think, the average age of a person wanting to get into investment properties was around 50. And why? Because we're looking at that retirement.
Yeah, they have money.
Yeah, well, we have money, but we're also looking at retirement, and we're like, is that going to be enough retirement money,
Hmm.
for me to retire on?
Yeah.
So what else do I need to supplement, that income? So, and then, we have COVID.
Oh,
No matter what anybody says, COVID has done a lot of changing to the way we do business today.
absolutely.
you know the way that it has affected our housing market.
Hmm.
You have people that don't want people coming into their house and walking through their house, while it's being listed and everything, uh like that. So
A lot of virtual showings and
the,
virtual stuff going on.
things that we would have never imagined. And what's so I think so great about all this is how the younger generation is coming in and showing we owe people, and I'm referring to myself, a kind of a different and new way of doing it. And so, but it's also doing the legality, doing it the correct way,
Right.
and making sure the correct information, is out there. So talking about what do you do when you have a house that you don't know what to do with? You know, as a consumer, where do you go? So I know that, as a real estate agent back in the day, I can remember walking into people's houses, as a listing agent. And this was before 2000, and 9, going, I don't know that I can sell your house in the condition that
Hmm.
it's in.
Hmm.
I mean, I was honest and I was truthful, about it.
Yeah.
And back then, investors were not as known, if that's a word
Right.
for it,
Publicized.
yeah, like it is today. And I think we can say that 2009 created that. When I know that when 2009 came, me as a real estate agent and a broker, my life changed because I did not want to deal with leasing. And I know a lot of agents back in the day went into, helping people get into rentals, helping people, getting into lease, s- housing and things like that. And I just didn't want to do that at the time, because I didn't have the right mindset.
Yeah.
So, Michael, you made a comment that you do wholesaling. So, what is wholesaling?
My definition of wholesaling is someone that gets a property that someone that goes into a purchase contract with a seller on a property, and it's typically at a little bit of a discounted rate due to the uh, condition of the property. Someone that goes into a contract on a property and then sells that contract to an end buyer. So, and we receive just a small fee in the middle usually.
Mhm.
Um, and normally it's, well, I don't know because I don't know what the other side of the coin is uh, for y'all's standards. But normally it's not just a whole lot of money. Normally it's a fairly small amount, and so we take the contract and we sell the contract, which is equity in the property. So as a contracted buyer, not the actual buyer, but as a contracted buyer, being on the contract as a buyer gives me an equity in the property. I am selling that contract slash my equity in the contract in the property to my end buyer.
Okay. So,
And a lot of times what I'll do is I will partner with my end buyer. That's how I run. That's how we run our businesses. We partner with our end buyer in one way or another to benefit everyone involved more.
right. So, I was started doing some research about this topic because you have you have people out there. not just real estate agents and brokers. I mean, we are low on inventory. How many calls a day do you get asking if you have anything for sale?
Oh gosh. I probably get 5 calls a day on average. Some weeks it's, a lot busier. Like at the end of the quarter, it was crazy. I was getting 10, 15 calls a day for a week or two.
So I started tracking it. I started tracking how many calls I get a day from people asking me, "Hey, my name is so and so. I am working for so and so, and I'm wanting to know if you have any off market, the word is off market, any off market properties you want to sell." So, and it's really funny. The first of the month, I've received a lot more phone calls than I do towards the end of the month. Okay. And at the first of the month, the first 10 days, I received around 11 phone calls a day.
Good gosh.
11 phone calls a day from people asking me if I had any off market. And then I started going back, and this is how I know that how what I started learning about virtual assistants, and things like that. And I started going back. I'm like, I don't have any, off market properties at the moment, but do you have any off market,
Right. I also
properties?
buy properties.
Because I buy properties, and things like that. And some of the people knew how to answer. Oh, and some of them did not know. Majority, I would say, on a whole, would say, "No, man, we just don't do that." And I'm like, "Well, can you take my information and go back to your manager, whomever, and let them know that I buy properties too, or
Yeah.
and I'm here and I can help out."
To the VA cold caller.
Yeah, to
And,
the
and and yeah, a lot of times I'll get that same message and I'll say, "Well, I buy properties also." Oh, okay, thank you. Click.
yes,
And it's like I have to really engage with you to even make you take my information as a buyer,
yes,
which is
yeah.
kind of crazy.
So, and then I will actually have individual brokers, or not brokers, people that own, wholesaling companies, to call me themselves.
Hmm.
I've had a lot more of those people lately to call and say, ask me, "Hey, what do you do when you come across properties you know what to do with?"
Yeah, trying to establish a
Uh,
relationship to some degree.
and you know what? I see this happening more and more about establishing the relationship, because there's a big company in the Dallas area, and I was surprised I got a phone call directly from them. And, we had this nice conversation for about 35 minutes.
Hmm.
And I said, "Look, it all comes down to what your wants and needs are. What is your criteria?" And I'm just wondering if people out there, whether you're a real estate license, whether you're a real estate agent with a license, or even an individual, do you even understand the word criteria when you're approaching people, about what is it that you're looking for and everything. So, like I said, I knew this topic was coming up. I went and did some research, and I even went to the Trek website to see if there was any information out there about it. And this is what I found. So, CJ, will you pull it up for us? Let me see. I can read it better from here. Okay, so Trek did a Texas survey on wholesaling. And they even gave a definition. Trek did. And first of all, Trek stands for Texas Real Estate Commission. That's who governs, the licensees, of people, making sure that we are compliant, because we do have a real estate license, of what we do.
And Trek is a government entity.
Yes, because it's trek.gov.
Right.
So yeah, I think can't remember if it was you or someone
It
else
was
asked
me
me. Okay.
yesterday or the day before.
So here's what Trek said. Wholesaling is a model where a person enters into a contract to buy real estate and then sells their contractual interest in the property to a third party prior to closing. Individuals engaged in wholesaling are not required to hold a real estate license as long as they disclose the nature of their interests to potential buyers and do not otherwise engage in real estate brokerage activity. So that is TREX, the Texas Real Estate Commission, about wholesaling. Now, on the other end of that, because I am a broker, and it doesn't matter whether I'm buying properties to hold myself, but if I have an interest in that property, I have to disclose that. No matter, even when it's a personal property. So back this summer, my family had inherited some land and we decided to sell it. And even at that point, I still disclosed to that buyer, hey, even though you're buying this through, the family, we have a contract, and they were not wanting to use a regular contract. And I said, I just feel better and more comfortable using you know, a contract because I am a licensed broker in Texas, and I need to disclose that to you. And it was to a developer that was taking place, and they're like, okay, so let's disclose it, sign it, and we went down the road. But like I said, I do that. I disclose what I do. I disclose, and
Mhm.
disclose. So Trek did a survey. They sent out a survey and more than 4,500 people responded. Okay, CJ, put this back up there. So they sent a survey out asking not only to real estate agents and brokers, but to wholesalers,
Mhm.
consumers, buyers
Just an
and
open,
sellers.
yeah.
In it open. So they had 4,500 people to respond to the survey since they did this in February. 3,200 of those that responded were open ended comments with wholesaling experience. Here's some results. So, type of respondents: 52% were agent brokers, 24% were wholesalers. But get this, 36% of the wholesalers that responded, wholesalers,
licensed.
were also licensed by TREC. They held a license by TREC as a broker and an agent, like me.
Mhm.
Okay. I found that very interesting. I think if more brokers and real estate agents and the consumers would be shocked by that number, that knowing how many people are in the investment world, which I've never completely understood because you have your big brokerage companies like Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams. They are in a kind of they may do single family houses, and that may be their specialty. But when they're going out and negotiating, whether they're opening up a single building here, an office here, and that is commercial brokering. That is being an investor, type deal. Okay, let me go down here. Okay, this was done in February. Okay. Let me go back up. Okay, the top areas, the Metroplex selling areas where wholesaling transactions occurred, most of them occurred in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Arlington area, the Houston, the Woodlands, the Sugar Land, and then San Antonio, New Braunfels. And then you go back to number 5, Dallas, Plano, and Irving. So those are where most of the transactions are taking place in Texas. Okay. What's really what was really neat about reading this about TREC, and it's something that we're talking about, is the wholesalers' comments. The wholesalers' open-end comments, they were positive, with most expressing their commitment to transparency and disclosure of their models. So I have a model. I have a model that I teach and I do, talking about not only just investment, but on the real estate side. There are several mention how wholesaling benefited sellers who may have properties in disrepair, or who had difficulty finding an agent to represent them, or have been in a complicated financial situation for which wholesaling was an easier method to avoid foreclosure or other hassles.
Mhm.
So, and as an early agent, I can remember walking into someone's house and thinking, how am I going to handle this? And I came across it more ways than one. And so that's when I started, creating a vendors list for my clients. I would walk in and I'm like, well, these walls are pink and purple and they need to be a neutral color. And I would have them say, this needs to be done before we put it on the market if you're wanting, top dollar,
Mhm.
for your property. And the thing about it is, you know, some of my clients had the money to do that, some of them didn't. And we got lucky. This is before 2009 happened. The contractor and the clients would sign, uh, a contract saying they would wait, to get paid.
Yeah.
And, with agents, that is a really big deal, especially in carpet and roofs right
Yeah.
now. The sellers don't have the money to do that. Hey, when we get closer, and, I can remember when I was part of Coldwell Banker and Century 21 Judge Fight, we had a lot of legal obligations, that we had to be concerned about. You know, uh, what do you do if that seller dies before closing got here and now the roof's being put on?
Mhm.
You know,
That's
and under some of the companies that I worked for, because I worked for more than just two, they didn't want us dealing with those situations. They just wanted us to go out there, list and sell,
Mhm.
buy, list, and and sell. And I got that. And then when I went to work for an investment company and I learned, other ways, of handling this, that's just like, you know, I'm self-employed, you're
I am
self-employed.
self-employed.
The traditional, I tell people ask, I don't know that I do things the traditional way. The thing about it is I've never known that I'm a traditional person. You know, I laugh because people, back and when I got into real estate, we had the hair, the makeup, and we all dressed up, and I would come
It was
into,
a formal thing.
yes, and I would come into the office, in tennis shoes and pants because I was showing farmland.
Mhm.
And I've mentioned this. You can't go show farmland in a dress.
And heels. Yeah.
Now my office manager, Dorothy Ratcliffe, would try to tell you differently. But I'm like, Dorothy, it's just too hot out there and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But, so like I said, there's a lot of comments about, investors are taking houses away from the market because we are so low on inventory. What's your comment?
I don't feel like the investors are making that as big a dent as they're being portrayed to be making. I feel like a lot of the agents that a lot, a lot of the agents that I know that are saying things like that aren't as familiar with the investment side of the industry and really just don't understand all the aspects of the investor side of the industry. Um, to me, as an investor, if I buy a house, if I wholesale a house, no matter what I'm doing with a house, it's going to be back on the market within 3 months as either a rental or a house for sale. So, how am I taking properties off? It may be temporarily, but I'm not taking properties off the market, not for long.
Well, I think a big problem. I don't know that it's a big problem. I shouldn't say that. I know one problem is I think that because I didn't when I was a real estate agent when I would come and I had an investor that I list properties for. that was one of the best things I could ever do because I learned so much from him by taking and helping, taking his listings. But back to the topic, I don't think people out there really understand and know that as an investor, we are vetted.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by vetted is, we have an interest in that property. We are putting whether it's our personal money or we have borrowed that money
Mm-hmm.
from someone else. We have an interest in that property. And I think people think that wholesalers, go out there and take advantage, of people by not paying top dollar. Well, what is top dollar? How do you come up with top
Top
dollar?
dollar is relative to condition. And that's something you mentioned something earlier. You said that wholesalers, we buy properties. Well, and that's the whole principle of today's podcast. We properties that are in disrepair or
Mhm.
are a burdensome property in one way or another. We go in and we make an offer on that property. We help we help people that are in situations. We are problem solvers. So we go in and we help people that are in those situations. I've purchased houses myself that the roofs were literally caving in. I mean, like I looked up to the ceiling and saw a 6 foot wide hole and birds sitting on the edge of the hole.
Right.
I mean, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to hire an agent and sell that house? I mean,
Well, here's the
and you may. There are some agents out there that have a Rolodex of investors also that are
yeah.
on their Rolodex, and they could get it and sell it to their investors. That's true. But we're doing the same thing in that respect.
Well, I think another
And I
thing
got to make sure that's clear. We're not doing the same thing, but it's a similar thing.
is, how do you come up with a value in everything?
To me, the value is predicated on the condition of the property. Um, the offer that I make is predicated on the condition of the property. There is a discounted price to some degree um, because of the property condition. If I have to go in and spend $50,000 on this property to repair it and put it and make it sell for top dollar, then there's got to be, I'm taking a lot of risk.
Mhm.
There's a lot of risk involved with that. What happens if my 50,000 turns into 80,000?
Exactly.
Because the seller didn't tell me about the black mold in the bathroom or the asbestos that now I've got to have a whole crew come out and shut everything down for 10 days.
Mhm.
There are all kinds of issues that you can run into. So I need to be able to hedge my chances of getting damaged in that. But I don't want, and this is something that most sellers don't understand, is that a wholesaler's fee doesn't come from the seller. The wholesaler's fee comes from the buyer. The buyer is who pays that fee.
I think that's where problems are in this industry though, because one of the comments was, against wholesalers, the party did not understand what they were getting into. Well, it doesn't really, I'm not saying it's just against wholesalers, but even with real estate agents, sometimes things are not disclosed. Things
Hmm.
are not um, you know, completely explained. I, what's going on. I was asked by someone here, it's probably been about a month ago. They asked me, "Well, Pam, how'd you come up with that value?" And I go, "Well, I ran comps." Well, what are comps? Comparable properties to what you have. And
Comparable property values.
yeah, comparable property values. And then he asked the next question, "Where did you learn that?" And I've gone back and I had to think, and I thought I was actually taught by an appraiser. Because I can remember when I got my real estate license, when I got my real estate license, they do not teach you comps, how to run comps in class. I mean, it is, you're going to a licensed school to get your license to become a real estate agent.
Right. Well, Whitney just went through that. She has completed all the courses, taken all the tests, and passed everything, and she's in the process of getting her license. She is a non-active agent at the moment, but she just went through all that, and they didn't teach her how to comp either, or not well anyway.
There's not any, now I will say this, MetroTex, our board, they have a comp class. And so I've always encouraged agents, you need to go take the class.
So the options are available to take the class, but they are not required for your license.
They are not required for our license. And when I told that to this seller that I was going to represent, he was shocked.
Mhm.
He was like, you've got to be.
Then how do you figure out the value of my house? That would be my question. If you're not required to learn this information, how do you find out the value of my house? Well, you have to take the interest upon yourself to learn how to do it and do it correctly.
And you have, you're representing someone and you need to know how, to express those values, how to properly represent those values to the client. I know one thing that I disagree with, that a lot of classes out there, we teach as investors. You don't have to have a lot of money you don't have to have a lot of money or no money to get into this business. And I disagree with that.
I do as well.
Because you do need to have some money to get into this. You do need to have, if you're going to become a wholesaler, you do need to have
at least a little bit of money.
Yes.
And you can start out with little to no money. You can, but it's going to take you so much longer to get anywhere.
But I think that's where the problem has come in for investors, and especially beginning investors, and talking about how to run those comps. Because I can remember when I first got into investing, it was, hey, you take 75% of the maximum offer. We call that the MAO, the maximum, offer.
Yeah.
You take, the ARV.
You take 70% of the ARV.
Yeah,
to determine the MAO.
So ARV is after the repair value. So what you do is you come up and you determine, and let's say it's $100,000. That's after everything's been fixed. That is the best,
absolute best case scenario.
So as investors at the very beginning, I can remember, I'm like, okay, so you take 75% of the ARV minus your repairs, and then minus what you want to work, and that's the offer that you make, to the seller. Well, in today's world and market, that doesn't work anymore.
No, it does not.
I think there are people out there that still kind of teaching an old way, which I never did to begin with. When I rehab houses and I have to keep up with pricing. Oh my goodness, because it changes every day. So when I go look at a property, I'm like, okay, it needs this, and needs this, and needs this. And then I go back and I, write down how much it's going to cost to repair that house. Okay. So that I can give that seller or that wholesaler my best and top value for that person. So we're buying a property the next couple of weeks. When we made the offer, they were shocked. They were like, well, you're actually giving us more than we thought we were going to get. And I said, that's my top dollar. I go, if you want me to pay you less, I don't have a problem doing that. But my top dollar is this. And I went through the process of it. And I do this with every seller when we're buying properties. I go through the process of explaining why it is at this offer. And sometimes it's like, I wished I could give you that offer.
Yeah.
but I can't. I did that this a couple of weeks. Well, no, it was over this last weekend. I met with an older gentleman. He told me what he wanted, and I'm like, "Your house needs no repairs."
Mhm.
I go, "I don't know why you just don't list it with a real estate agent,
Yeah.
and put it in the MLS." And it was funny because, well, you're a real estate agent. How come you're not asking me, to list it? And I said, "Well, I will if you want me to."
Yeah.
We discussed, options and everything. But when I said, why do you not want to list it with a real estate agent? And he goes, "Well, I can go put a sign in the yard." And
Mhm.
I said, "Is that really how you think?" He goes, "In today's market," he said, "you tell me what you're going to do for me besides put a sign in the
Mhm.
yard." And I went through the process.
Yep.
I said, with me, I have
As
two
an agent.
with me, not only as an agent, but even as an
Okay, so you
advisor.
did both sides. Okay.
Yes, I said, as an agent, yes, I'm going to stick a sign in the yard and I'm going to put it in the MLS, and it's going to be exposed to 9,000 people out there.
And we're gonna schedule
And,
walkthroughs
and
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 viewings
that
and
was my sales pitch at one time to get listings.
Mhm.
But now I can add to it.
Mhm.
Okay. Because I can say, but I also have another buyer's list. I have a list of buyers because of today's market of people that are looking for this type of house.
Exactly.
You know,
With half a roof or
it,
yeah.
without putting it into the MLS. Not only that, I have a list of real estate agents that have a list of buyers
Mhm.
that this can help. I think the real estate agents have gotten. I know this. I got lazy. You know, now that we're going into the investment side of it, I'm actually on the phone, calling, different real estate agents. "Hey, I have this house going on the market. I want to let you know about it. And, if you have a buyer, here it is." You know, just going through that process, it's a lot of time. It's a
It
lot of
is.
work. And the thing about it is I'm doing it. I'm doing it because number one, I am an investor, but number two, I do have a license.
Mhm.
I don't have somebody else doing it for me. And I think that's another problem that sometimes we run into, is having an unlicensed person. And I'm actually talking about virtual
Yeah,
assistants.
yeah. Yeah.
You know me. I'm not all for. I am for the virtual assistant, and I'm not for the virtual assistant.
Mhm.
You know, but they're most of them are not making offers. They're just trying to see if you have an
They're
off market.
gauging interest.
Well, they're calling to see if you have an off market
Mhm.
property, and they're making appointments
Mhm.
for people. That's
It's
you
quite a bit
know
different.
and that's different from a real estate broker's point of
Yeah.
view. But it was interesting when I talked to this older gentleman. And the thing about it is, he didn't want to sign a contract. And he goes, "Bring me a buyer." And he said, "And, we'll discuss, how much I'll pay you, for bringing a buyer." I mean, what I don't have the right to say, "No, you have to do this and
Well,
that."
yeah, it's your house. I can't make you do anything.
Mm. And so it was very interesting to hear what he had to say. And it was interesting to hear what the other sellers had to say when they were shocked at our offer.
And you said that a minute ago, and there has been plenty of times when my offer wasn't where I wanted it to be, much less where my seller wanted it to be. There's been plenty of times I've even been cussed and hung up on a few times. But there's also been those times where I gave a number and my seller said, "Wow, that's like 10, 15,000 more than I was expecting." Well,
Hmm.
that's great. That's what we strive for.
Hmm.
I want to over deliver. I want to be able to exceed your expectations in every way possible.
Well, here's the thing about it. So the property we're getting ready to close on next week. So it was a reverse mortgage. I don't know how many people understand the process that you have to go through when you're doing a reverse mortgage and the person has already passed away. Okay. And there's no will involved.
Right.
that's when you need to really have a great team on your side, and that team is number one, a title company.
Hmm.
You know, a title company with great escrow officers.
Yeah, absolutely.
If
That's
you
invaluable.
it is so invaluable in everything. And one thing that I am seeing today that I am so totally shocked over is surveys.
Hmm.
Title companies telling you as the seller or even the
Or the
the
buyer.
agent, yeah, it's your responsibility to go call the surveyors. And I'm
Uh-huh.
going, wow, when did that take place? And when did that happen? Is it because you don't have enough time? Is it because they're under um, fiduciaries that they don't want to take responsibility of
Hmm.
when they're hiring the survey company, it doesn't work out? I am I've ran across 4 different title companies within this last month, and I'm going, it's my responsibility to call the surveying company, and it's no longer y'all's. It's unbelievable how things are changing,
Hmm.
and the market is changing.
Yeah,
So
and I think we're going to be running into the real estate agent part of that too, with Whitney becoming active here pretty soon. And like I said, I want to over deliver. And that's the reason that's the reason we wanted to get Whitney's license. My wife, her license was so that we can help the people that don't want to wholesale or don't want to be involved in the investment side of it. We can help them too. And because when it's all said and done, my job again is to provide solutions, solve problems, and provide value. And that's what I want to do, no matter what I'm doing for a client.
well, it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people out there do not understand how many investors out there do understand relationship building, because here's what's happening. So the property, their mom passed away in reverse mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
We have done such a great job with them because it's about to go into foreclosure. They have already referred me to someone else in San Angelo,
Nice.
and I'm like, well, here's the deal. And I said, I don't know much about San Angelo. I don't know the values and stuff down there.
Yeah.
And this is what they had to say when they came back. And I said that. They said, no, you don't understand. We want you to go through the process with us.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to handle
Because
the,
of the value you provided as
yes.
an intermediary of one kind or another.
And they said, we may have a buyer, but we want you to go through it with us
Hmm.
so that the process gets done correctly and faster. And we do value your opinion of what you think
Exactly.
this is worth. And I'm like, wow, that is a very high compliment,
Yeah.
right there. And you know, if it comes, there's a a big thing right now. Should wholesalers have to have a license? Or and if they do, what kind of a license? Are they going to have to go and get a real estate license or some other type of license? I think this is my personal opinion. This is just my personal opinion. If it comes to that, I think the market is going to be shocked about, because I think you're good, well educated investors, because we are vetted, because we are putting $50,000 in rehab
Hmm.
into that property. Yes, we want to make a profit, just
Yeah.
like builders.
Hmm.
Builders do not go out there and build houses
For free.
for free. They're expecting, a
A
profit.
return.
It's just a different way of looking at it,
Hmm.
a different way that the situation is handled. I can remember back before 2009, okay, back in the day when I would, you know, I don't know if the correct word was be argue, but when trying to come up with a listing price, what are we going to list your house for? So many agents out there, and can say at one time I was one of them. Okay, so you think your house is worth 300,000? Well, we're going to put it on the market for 300,000, and if it doesn't sell, then we're going to lower it.
Mm.
I think we're doing the same thing in a reverse way in today's market. We know that that property is worth 200,000, but let's list it for 160 and get into a bidding war.
Because it's a bull market. It's a seller's market. So yes, you're going to, and I've ran into that too on both sides of the industry when I'm trying to buy from realtors or when I'm trying to buy from the seller independently. And, they'll say, well, I'm asking 120. I said, well, okay, you know what? That works. Well, no, you don't understand. You make the offer and I'll put you in the group with the other offers. I'm like, so you're not asking 120 because I just offered 120 and you didn't accept it. So you're not actually asking 120. Well, yeah, I guess not. But yeah, that's something that's happening right now. And we are about, in my personal opinion, we are about to see a shift, whether it's a large shift or a small shift. We are about to see a shift in the real estate market to some degree. With inflation, with interest rates going up, with all of this stuff going on, it may not be a large differentiation, but there will be a difference made. Um, and I believe that it's going to be a little less of a seller's market. I've already seen the
I've seen
days on
prices drop.
market. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen longer. I'm starting to see longer days on market. I'm seeing more properties with the
Yep.
price drop
Mm-hmm.
than we have in the last, year or so.
Year or two.
But also, I mean, I have to say this: I am still seeing properties that are the minute they go in the MLS, they have offers on them within 1 or 2 hours,
and still some of them at 5 and 10% over asking.
Yes, and I can remember last year at this time, I had a friend that we, trying to help her find a house to buy. And I mean, she still has not found a house to buy because of where she is and everything. And she has a loan, she's not paying cash, and the type of property, that she wants to have. And I don't have the right to go out there and push her. I have heard agents say this, but if you want this house, then you need to do this and you need to do that. Well, are you doing that by providing that information um, in a nice way, or are you providing that information for the sale? And there's a
Right.
difference. And I think agents today need to be careful about how they put that information out there. So when I was asked by my client, she's like, I just don't know what to do, Pam. I just don't know what to do. And my question to her would be, how bad do you want the house?
Mm-hmm.
What, and I would go through and explain the contract to her. I would say, do you understand what an option period is? For me personally, when I know I want a property, we will risk the option money.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's how serious are you about acquiring this property?
the other problem that I see sometimes with, you know, especially beginning wholesalers, do you understand that when you put that property under contract and you're using a TREC form and you're using that option period, you have an obligation to that contract. Now, every contract that in every property that I purchase, I make sure that I have funds for it.
Mhm.
Someone, whether it's my money or I'm going to borrow the money. And this is a thing that I don't think, real estate agents understand. I have to, you know, I have to be approved when I'm borrowing what we call hard
Yeah,
money.
you still have to be approved.
I can't just go get, hard
And
money.
part of that approval is ensuring that the property isn't being overpaid for, making sure that you're making sure that the value of the property and the condition of the property are what they should be for the amount of money that you are borrowing, just like traditional lending in that way.
Well, not only that, I have one step more. How experienced are you? I have to prove, I have to provide information when I'm borrowing money, you know,
That says you've done other deals and
that,
you have experience. Yeah, because
you know,
most lenders will not work with rookie or green investors or wholesalers because it is riskier.
and I don't know that on the real estate side of that with agents and brokers, I don't know if they understand that process. Just like we're both self-employed,
Hmm.
and uh, I'm part of a coaching program, and we do videos, doing video marketing. And one of the deals was talking about all the different types of lending, FHA,
Right.
conventional, and cash. Well, I can't do an FHA loan. I don't I do not have a steady monthly
Yeah,
income
you don't
coming in
qualify.
that I do not qualify. So I have to do other,
Hmm.
lending, getting money. And because of that, it made me realize that there are a lot of people out there that cannot.
That don't fit into that model.
Right. They don't. That is a great word, model. You know, Yes, I've had a bankruptcy, and we talked about this earlier before the podcast. I may have a bankruptcy. I may have had a foreclosure, on my credit score. And my credit score may be in the 500s
Hmm.
because, and I mean, I can remember when my credit score, after 2009, I can remember when my credit score went down, and I was like, what in the
Hmm.
world am I going to, do here? And, but I worked on it, and kept
Yeah,
after it. But just
but at
because
that time you did not fit in the model.
I did not fit the model, but it did not mean that I could not afford to make $800
Right.
a month house payments.
Right. But you had to do it through an alternative avenue. And
Yes.
that's one of the things that investors do that I'm not going to speak for the licensed side because I'm not entirely sure, but I can say for a fact that that is one thing that investors do because I have done it. I actually own a couple of notes on properties. I have purchased a property and turned around and cleaned it up and sold it seller finance to a family that could not be approved traditionally for a loan. I am making a little bit of a profit on it. That's the industry. The bank's making a profit on it. The lending company lending you the money is making a profit on it, or they wouldn't be doing it. So I am in this instance, I am the lending company
Hmm.
because I am the one financing that property out to this buyer. So I am going to make a little bit of money on it, but I am also providing a value in that this family has a roof over their head now.
Hmm.
And they if they were trying to go the traditional route, they would not have been able to.
Well, my first two rental properties, I acquired them in 2011 and 12 when my credit was so bad. They were great deals.
Hmm.
And the title company that I knew at the time recommended me to a person. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. He looked at my credit score and he goes, "You have one of the most horrible credit scores I've ever come across." He goes, "But I'm going to take a risk on you." He and I still do business to this day. And he said, he said, "How much, we went through the process. Well, how much are you going to rent them out for?" And I told him what I was going
Hmm.
to rent them out for. And because of that, he goes, "Wow, you're actually going to have a $400 a month cash flow."
Right.
And here's the thing, for a lot of years, I paid, you know, electric, water, you know, the necessary out of that $400
Right.
because that's all I had coming in,
Insurance.
you know, in at that time.
Because
And
if
it,
you maintain ownership, you got to pay for the insurance, you got to pay for the taxes,
Mhm.
you've got to put money back for any
Yes.
maintenance. When that renter calls you and says, "Hey, my dishwasher quit working," well, you got to fix that.
But my whole point, you know, of this is no one else would give me a loan.
Mhm.
I no bank would give me a
Right.
loan. No traditional lender would give me a loan because my credit score was in the 400s. One person took a risk,
Yeah.
and now I still have those rental properties today. I mean, yeah, I still have them today, and I just, you know, I'm so proud that someone took a risk on me. The thing about it is, how many other people out there are like the Pam is, you know, back in
Yeah.
the day? And I don't think a lot of, you know, people understand that. I don't think a lot of people understand, you know, there are people out there that can make that $800 a
There
month payment
needs to be
regardless of what
right.
their credit
There
score is.
needs to be alternative scenarios and alternative options. That's one thing that it even said on that Trek report is that they appreciated the
Yes.
other options that were available
Hmm.
through the wholesaler. Yes, I've talked to people and they said, "Well, we want to go with you." And I said, "Your property is in actually in pretty good shape. You would probably benefit more going through a realtor financially." Well, we don't want to wait that long, or we don't want to do this, or we don't. Well, okay, I'm going to explain how my side of this deal works, and then we'll decide what, I'll let you decide what you want to do. And I went through the whole process, and they said, "Okay, we understand you're going to make this, you're going to do this and that." And I said, "Okay, we'll start the process, but I want to make sure you know what the numbers look like. I want to make sure that you understand where things are at, and that you are okay with the number you're getting, and you know that you could have listed this and likely sold it on the MLS with a realtor." And they still chose to go with me
Right. Well,
because options. I mean, there's different people have different needs.
I am surprised at today's market how many people do not want people walking through their house.
Hmm.
And I'm going, you know, that's the old traditional way.
Hmm.
You put it on the market, you walk through the house, you know, and everything. I am very surprised at how many people do not want to go through that process. CJ, do you want to go through that process? Why do you not want to go through that process?
That's
Well,
one reason.
that is
That
not
that's one reason. I've heard that reason.
COVID. COVID has changed that.
Hmm.
Everybody still doesn't know. Uh, I mean, I've noticed in the news there's not as much talk about COVID as there was, you know, 6 months ago. But my house is a mess. I have young kids.
Hmm.
You know, I used to tell my sellers, look, do not leave the house. You know, we as agents, we want the sellers to leave the house so that we have the privacy of talking to our buyers while going through the
Right.
house. Okay. Well, here I am with two young kids. And I used to tell my sellers, do not leave the house until the agent shows up and say, just give me 5 minutes or give me a couple minutes, get the kids in the car and we'll leave, you know,
Yeah.
and everything. So that, and I understand the discrepancy. I understand that, you know, agents want to have that, you know, conversation with their buyers.
Right.
But now it's all virtual. It's
Hmm.
about to all go virtual. I mean, you know, walk them through it. I'm ran into an agent the other day sitting there with their phone, you know, walking with their client, you know,
Yep.
through the house.
Doing
And,
virtual tours.
yeah, and I asked her, I said, "So was your buyer actually on the other end of that phone?" She said, "Yes." And listen to this. She goes, "This is what scares me." she said, what did I miss that I didn't tell my buyer?
Hmm.
Because we are put through a 15-minute window, a 20, when you go schedule an appointment
Yeah.
through showing time, and the we as agents have put a showing restriction, how much time you're left in that house. And she told me, she said, I try to walk back through the house very quickly to think, did I miss
Yeah.
anything? Did I not show them the crack over here in this corner? She said, I've been doing this business for a while, but doing business this way is scary.
Yeah, I mean, there's times I've forgotten to look under the sink and show them what the pipes look like, or if there is a crawl space, try to turn on a light and show them a little bit under the house so you see what the plumbing looks like. Show them the breaker box and what the panel box looks like, and if the breakers are newer and the electric's been redone. Get a good view of the roof, things like that. Oh man, there was a huge crack in the brick under that window. Golly, did I show him that?
Mhm.
You know, I get that completely. And I've wholesaled nationally as well, some, and it's a little more difficult to do it that way. And it's harder to get the numbers, and it's harder to get all the information down as well. So there's a lot of drawbacks to that, in my opinion. That's kind of why we came back to the DFW market, because we can have boots on the ground personally,
Mhm.
or with at least with people we know and trust.
Right. So you know, it's going to be interesting to see where is our real estate market going even a year from now.
Hmm.
I've made comments on Facebook about, I made one the other day. A year ago, gas was $1.11 a
Yeah.
gallon, and now it's over $3, a
Right.
gallon. I made comment about, this is what houses are going for today at a square foot. And we've said this, who had ever thought, a mobile home on 2 acres of land would be over $200,000 in today's market? Where is it going to be a year from now? But I think that there does need to be something that comes together between the real estate agents and brokers and the investors.
Absolutely.
We need to be working together and not against
Not
one
butting
another.
heads.
Yes.
Agreed.
And and that is one thing that I have really enjoyed. Um, I don't know where I'm going to take my real estate broker,
Your brokerage.
yeah, my brokerage, or I don't really have a brokerage because it's just been me,
Right.
ever since, forever, for the last 5 to 6 years and everything. So, but it's opened my eyes up. It's opened when my seller asked me, how did you come up with that value?
Hmm.
And he goes, and when he asked, well, where did you learn that? It was amazing, just the points, and I thought, who did teach me how to run comps?
Right.
Where did I learn how to do comparables?
Hmm.
And no, it's not a part of our, license required, classes.
Hmm.
But we I will say that the industry, there are title companies that do offer the option, and I think every agent, and I even tell investors, a lot of people don't know this, but you can call, I know you can call MetroTech,
Hmm.
and if they're offering a class, you as an individual, if the class is not full, you can pay for that class and take the class yourself as an individual.
Hmm.
It's just that we don't advertise that, and
Right.
maybe we should. I don't know about that. Anyway, I thought it was very interesting what Trek had to say.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Their definition of a wholesaling, and the fact that 36% of the 24% that respond are real estate investors,
Are
brokers. Yes,
licensed.
are
Yeah.
licensed themselves. That was, and then the comments, you know, some sellers were, glad that it's out there. More people would like to know the whole story. And
Hmm.
I think, you know, I mean, I teach house, a beginner's class. I don't call it wholesaling.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I do teach how I run comps,
Hmm.
on
Well,
properties
yeah.
and everything. So I mean, someone's got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I think
And
there's a
people need to understand it is an opinion.
right.
It is, no matter
Yeah,
what.
and there's no way even the good gosh, the inspectors, the anyway, even the formal that even the formal but
Appraisers.
thank you, good gosh, even the appraiser's value is an educated opinion. It's educated and they know what they're doing, but it's still just numbers from around the area put together. And you may get more than that. You may get less than that. It's his idea of what your house should be worth based on the criteria and data around your home.
Well, not only that, because we have low inventory, you can no longer completely depend on the multiple listing service, which we call the MLS, to come up, or appraisers. I've been told
Right.
this by appraisers.
Hmm.
They no longer depend just on the MLS to come up with value on a house.
Right.
And I find that very interesting, and everything. There are other ways of coming up with value besides going through the multiple listing service. Uh, we are seeing more services out there
Hmm.
being available. Prop string,
To
prop string,
non-licensed individuals.
yeah, prop string. They depended so much on the multiple listing, and then they lost their contract on the sold end.
Hmm.
Well, because Texas is a non-judicial state, meaning we do not have to go before a judge for, if
For
you're yeah,
evictions.
for no, we have to go before a judge on evictions.
Yeah,
But I mean, if your house is going into
that's
foreclosure,
right. That's
you
for
know,
foreclosure, not
yes,
eviction. I'm
yes,
sorry.
for foreclosures, even on short sales.
Uh-huh.
Okay. We do not have to go before a judge to do all of that. So that's what we call a non-judicial state. And there's now I think it's going to get, I don't know if it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't know what that's going to happen. It's going to be interesting to
Yeah,
see where it goes, from here. So,
agreed. Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about the relationship with realtors and brokers and investors and wholesalers and how we would like to see everything. I don't know that we covered so much what a person should do with a house that they have. We may go into that for just a minute or two. I think we're already a little over time, but I guess if you have a house that you are that will not fit the traditional sales model, that will not that you cannot get traditional funding on, you can go through investors and they can usually get it done quicker. And
I don't know that they
I
can
guess
get.
everything's relative. So you can't necessarily say that. Everything's relative to what the other side is. So they can get it done also, and they can usually get it done quickly. So if you have a property, and like I said, investors are problem solvers. They problem solve on both sides of the fence with buyers and with sellers. I have handled so many probate processes. I have two different attorneys that we use for our probate properties, and they are very, very good. That's why we use them, because I want to ensure that these things are done correctly, because I want to ensure that every single heir in that property gets what they deserve out of that property, or what they should out of that property. It there are we are problem solvers, and I just want to make sure that point gets out there, that it's not just about selling the house or selling the contract or getting the contract. It's about solving the seller's problem in the most efficient way possible for them.
Mhm.
And that's my goal. That's always my goal, is how can I help you? I want to know what you're going through. I want to know what you need, and I want to know what you need from me so that I know what I need to provide. And if you have a house that's in disrepair, it's that's not going to be traditionally lent on, or if you have a house you don't know what to do with and you've got five brothers fighting each other over it, we can usually do something with that. I'm actually in a scenario like that right now. Um, we that's our job, as wholesalers and as investors,
Even as real estate
even as real
agents.
estate agents. That is our job, is to solve those problems for those sellers.
It's
And
not to solve, it's to help.
correct.
It is to serve and to help.
And I've had so many people come to me after we finish a deal saying, you communicated with me so well. You kept me up to date so well. We took there was a property in Fort Worth that we did that actually had squatters in it. And we actually handled AML Homes actually handled the squatters so that
Wow.
the seller did not have to deal with that. We handled the squatters. We talked to the neighbors. We set things up in a way that we got the squatters out, and we kept the squatters out, and we even helped the neighbor make some money.
Wow.
And that's the kind of thing we do. We solve problems as best we can, or at least help solve problems.
Right.
And that's, I mean, in the end, that's really all you can ask for.
Well, I just hope that, you know, one of my goals is not only to help the consumer out there that they inherit a property, they don't know what to do with it. They have a property that's in disrepair that they don't know what to do with it. But agents that come across those properties and they don't know what to do with it,
Yes.
I hope they feel I want them to feel comfortable enough that they can work with investors,
Absolutely.
because that's what this is all about. It's about relationship, building,
Yes.
not with just the consumer and the client, but with other people, with other real estate agents, with other
The
brokers,
industry
you
as a
know.
whole.
Yes, the industry as a whole. That's what, one of my goals and things that I would like, you know, to put out there and help bring, together
Yeah.
and everything.
I couldn't agree more. I think I don't know that I could have put it any better. Our goal should be to make scenarios where everyone benefits, regardless of what the scenario is, and finding solutions.
I feel like I am in a position when it comes to people, because like I said, when you have someone that died, that passed away without a will, and I mean, I know a lot of this because I went through this with my family, with
Mhm.
my mom, uh, it was not a small estate,
Right.
and I'm talking about, there was a lot of land and properties involved, not so much money is, that.
Right.
So, but anyway, my mom, she had a will, thank goodness, and I tell people, you really do need to go out and have some type, you need to have a will. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, with COVID, you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow or the next day. I mean,
Yeah.
you just don't know with everything that's going, on in today's world. But my whole point back to this is there are people out there that it, it's a big surprise. They don't know what to do. And my thing is helping those people getting through the process and,
And what's best for them.
yes, what is very best for them.
I have
And
no problem telling a potential client, you really should call a real estate agent. Look, I've got 2 or 3 different ones that I'm good friends with, and they will do you right. But with this property, you are going to lose money going with me
mhm.
that you could easily make going with a realtor. And I've told people that. I have no problem with that. I want to make sure that that client is getting what they need
Right.
as best I can.
Well, with me, I am willing, I try to give them and get them top dollar
Hmm.
to the best ability that I can and everything. And like you said, that's what it's, all
What it's
about
all about.
in the community. So, if you're out there and you don't know what to do, call us,
Yeah,
contact
absolutely.
us. And if anybody out there wants a copy of what Trek had to say, contact us. Be
I
happy
think
to.
we mentioned putting a link or putting the document PDF below in the comments or something.
No, we're
Also,
not going to do
we're
that.
not. Okay. Well, never mind. Sorry.
Just contact us,
Okay. Yeah.
and we can do that. So anyway, like I said, one day we're gonna get the wholesalers and the real estate agents together because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Michael, it was great to be with you today.
Well, it was great talking with you too. I think we covered a lot of subjects that needed to be covered.
CJ, we appreciate you putting this on the air.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything you want to add to it? Do we need to cover anything?
Y'all did great.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. We appreciate you. So until next time,
Bye, y'all.
bye.